That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
In the dynamic world of higher education, it is easy for the daily grind to overshadow the core mission, serving students. Welcome to Finding Your Why, the Pulse Check series that reignites your passion for higher education. Join us as we chat with inspiring leaders who have found the purpose amidst the challenges of academia. Whether new to the field or a seasoned pro, this series offers valuable insights and practical advice to help you reconnect with your mission and thrive in your higher ed journey. Tune in and reignite your passion for making a lasting impact on students' lives. Kent, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so thrilled to have you on the inaugural mini-series of Finding Your Why.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's great to see you and great to be with you for this important conversation.
This has been something that we kicked off recently, and what prompted me was your LinkedIn post. And so we'll get into that a little bit. But before that, tell me a little bit about how you found your why in higher ed.
I'm starting my 33rd year working in higher education.
Wow.
So I think it's probably fair to say that I have found my why. But Ken, I'm like many people. I found this somewhat accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot of people, especially college administrators, who say, "Hey, I'm going to go work in financial aid, or I'm going to go work in admissions, or marketing and communications." So my start was actually prompted by a conversation I had at a graduation party from my alma mater, Gettysburg College. The woman who interviewed me, her name was Jean LeGros, was at the party, and she asked me if I'd ever thought of going into college admissions. And I, at the time, responded no. And she said, "Well, you'd be great at it." And she invited me to her office the following Monday, and we put together a resume, and the rest is history. I've found myself in higher ed and love it. I think it's incredibly important and transformational work.
I couldn't agree more about how much I love it and how transformational it can be. And, it's so reminiscent of all the stories I hear about people who are in higher ed, especially on the staff and administration side. Maybe the academic side, the path is a little more set for people who are like, okay, I'm getting my master's, my doctorate, I'm going to become faculty, and this is the route I pursue. But on the staff side, I don't know any development officers like, oh, I want to do this for higher ed, or I want to do graphic design in higher ed, whatever that might be. So the accidental piece definitely rings true. So, finding yourself in higher ed, but then staying in higher ed, I feel like are two different but related questions. So you've been at it for 33 years, as you said, and thank you for your service, I would say, because not many people have had that long a tenure, again, on the staff and administration side. What kept you going?
I think about this all the time, and I'd say it's especially pertinent right now at this time of year as we're gearing up to welcome a new cohort of students to Augustana College and welcome back our upper class students. I think I don't want this to sound cliche, but it's truthful. I mean, the students and watching their growth and celebrating important moments like the first year convocation and commencement. I think that's what keeps me in this. That's certainly one part of it. A second part of it is that I continue to believe, and have believed this for a long time, that the single greatest export to the world that the United States has is United States higher education in its diversity and in its variety of forms. And I think healthy higher ed, healthy campuses are important to the world and the values that we're able to export to the world of inquiry and liberal education and freedom of expression. So that's another reason. And the final reason I would say is I love working with my team members.
Mm-hmm.
The mentoring relationships, seeing people grow, seeing that moment when they get it and are inspired to do a little bit more. But that's certainly something that's really important to me as well.
All of that is so profound and reminds me too of the impact that we have and we can have. I mean, for sure, commencement is my most favorite time in higher ed. I mean, the tears of joy are just, they're just flowing. I mean, Kleenexes everywhere. But it's interesting to talk about that global inquiry. I mean, I think of myself as a global citizen, and I am very much passionate about the idea that education can take us beyond borders and boundaries. And so all of that, yes. And so what is your source of inspiration on a more day-to-day basis, if you will? Or how do you keep that front and center?
It goes back to my experience at Gettysburg College. I was a political science major and had minors in history and Spanish. And I was really inspired by politics and inspired by the impact that politics has on our world. And what keeps me going day to day is I'm invited by the institution that I represent to run a campaign on behalf of Augustana College every year, and I've got to get 675 to 700 students to elect me. And
Mm,
that gives me the rush on a day-to-day basis to divine and devise strategy relative to make that happen in a world that's ever changing and more cluttered than ever before. And so every day I come in pretty inspired to do that work. And I've been fortunate to be able to sort of spread beyond just admissions to oversight of financial aid and oversight of our marketing and communications department, and participate in strategic planning, and all of those elements plug into that whole competitive process of trying to get the right students to pick this place on an annual basis. So that keeps me going day to day.
I couldn't agree more. That's on my drive in, which is a short drive, but I still try to remind myself what today is going to be about. Yes, it's about the to dos, but it's really going to be about to what end. And so, how does, your team and people that perhaps are, individual contributors or has specialized skill set and they serve a multitude of audiences, if you will, how do you translate some of that same inspiration so that they feel that too? Because they might not have that immediate impact that they feel on a day to day basis.
Um, the work that's done oftentimes in higher education, especially in administrative roles, because of the sort of long business cycle and the sort of the repetitive work, you have to have a delayed sense of gratification,
Mm-hmm.
right? The results in student recruitment, they come once a year.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come quarterly. They don't come monthly. And so that delayed sense of gratification is something that you have to make sure people are comfortable with, because you can't meet those quarterly goals and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that I spend a lot of time talking to people about. But the other thing is I'm really interested in making sure that even in that repetitious sort of cyclical work, that team members are able to do something that really brings them some joy. So really going back, 25 years when I first started to work in a leadership position, I've been really comfortable with team members taking on something that is really important to them.
Mm.
Uh, Sometimes it's participating as an assistant coach for one of our varsity athletic programs. Sometimes it's accompanying the choir on a choir tour. Sometimes it's working with a specific academic department, or oftentimes I've seen this through my career. It's younger staff members, helping mentor our student ambassadors and
Mm-hmm.
supervising that group of people. So I think it's important as a leader, if you're going to keep people in this profession, to give them some space to do what they really love, to I say this intentionally, to offset some of the repetitive, sometimes mundane, cyclical work that goes along with the job, especially knowing that there's really only that, at least in the work that I do, that once a year big celebration of the results that you've been working towards for the whole entire cycle.
This is wonderful. This is not just a conversation about finding purpose, but really a great insight into leadership practices too. So I appreciate that. So back a few weeks ago, when so you and I have been connected for a while, and I saw your LinkedIn post, and you talked a little bit about seeing some brain drain on from campuses to maybe consulting or adjacent industries, etc. And you encourage those who are at institutions to quote unquote keep fighting the good fight. And I got motivated. I'm like, yes, thank you. Like, I'm here with you. But tell me what prompted that post.
Yeah, this was a couple of weeks ago. I'd sort of seen in my network, my LinkedIn network, which I find so incredibly valuable to see what's happening in the profession and with colleagues. I'd seen a couple of people who were leaving chief enrollment positions and taking on roles at consulting and adjacent firms to the enrollment management industry. And these were people who I still deeply admire them, but they were people who I really respected professionally, and they were in chief enrollment officer positions. And I guess it was just a moment where I was like, gosh, I really hate to see these fantastic
Mhm.
colleagues leaving campuses, because I think our campuses need imaginative, experienced, thoughtful leadership, because the job isn't getting any easier. It's not getting any easier anywhere in higher education. And I just, I guess I was feeling a little bit nostalgic for those folks who I've known for a long time, who are I won't say leaving me behind, but are going to do some different work. And it's not to be dismissive at all of the value of adjacent industries and consulting. I think that people contribute in really valuable ways to many campuses. And one thing that I've observed is that the people who leave a campus and go into consulting, they get great satisfaction from helping multiple campuses,
Right.
and their expertise being appreciated and valued on multiple campuses. And I understand that completely, because sometimes it can be hard on a campus to, as they sometimes say, to be a prophet in your own nation.
Mm,
It's a big job. I was just sort of at the moment thinking, gosh, here are another couple of people I've known for 30 years who are leaving the business that I love and
mm-hmm.
am inspired about doing every day.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that that post may have gotten some reactions or some messages. What did you hear from your network?
Yeah, I actually heard two sort of different sentiments. One, I heard from two people who did the exact opposite, had been in the consulting world the last couple of years and have just recently taken on campus jobs again. And
Mm,
that was the crew that sort of aligned with some of the thinking I shared earlier, Ken, about how inspiring it is to be surrounded by students and
mm,
to be in the messiness of being on a college campus. And then I also heard from folks who said, "Hey, let me just tell you how much I enjoy being able to sort of work on my own terms, to assist and contribute and lend expertise to multiple campuses and people who I respect and admire." And so I heard from both sets,
mm,
which was great. because I think it certainly balanced out the post that I made, and reminded me that everybody's why and everybody's calling and everybody's path is a little bit different. And it also made me think, hey, I hope that this didn't come across as being critical of those people, because it wasn't critical at all about the people who were leaving leadership positions. Instead, it was a bit of a lament, just seeing a couple of more really talented people who I respect and admire going into a different piece that supports our industry overall.
Right, right.
Hey there, it's Mallory, Chief Strategist of Enrollify. Higher ed is facing a leadership crisis. The demands on today's college and university leaders are skyrocketing, and talent is leaving the industry at an unprecedented rate. New leaders like you are emerging, but no one is getting the proper training to be successful. Well, Enrollify is here to change that. Our new course, Lessons in Leadership, taught by Dr. Carrie Phillips, will prepare you to be a confident, empathetic, and effective leader. From systems thinking to adaptive leadership, building culture to handling difficult decisions, this comprehensive online course is perfect for new and aspiring leaders. Don't wait. The course starts September 9th, and for a lucky group of 26 students, we have the option to add interactive sessions with Dr. Phillips for personalized guidance. Visit enrollify.org to learn more.
You know, some people are attracted to the messiness. Some people find the messiness maybe a little much, and maybe that's one of their motivators to maybe seek some alternative but yet impactful routes. So, with all of that messiness and challenges that higher ed is facing, and it just feels like the challenges seem to not really go away. One can say, well, the pandemic has gone away, but I don't know that the effects of the pandemic have gone away. So how does one keep that flame going? Because that attractiveness to coming to a mission driven nonprofit types of institutions where you have a healthy work life balance, where you aren't kind of working days and nights and trying to meet deadlines, and then the pressures of what we are trying to deal with as an industry are mounting. And some people thrive in that. Some people find joy in terms of like just, okay, let's all band together and figure this out together, because ultimately it is about, making a difference and doing what's right by our students. But, sometimes it can feel like a lot. And so, how do you keep that flame going in amidst all these challenges?
Well, there are a lot of challenges, and it's not going to get any easier. And I guess if I were to be offering some advice or perspective on it, first thing I would say is we just can't become paralyzed and
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed by the challenges, whether it's the demographic cliff, it's the outcome of the aftermath of the pandemic, if it's unfinished learning, if it's things that are beyond our control. And I guess
Or the
that would be the
FAFSA
first thing.
fiasco, which I know
Yeah.
you've been passionately writing about.
Yes, I have been. I guess it's the first thing is to come to terms with there are always going to be some things that are beyond your control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you become paralyzed or so distressed by those things that are beyond your control, you can't lock in and engage in that which is in your control. And we've always, or I guess I've always thought in my work in enrollment management, that the most important thing to do is control the controllables. And that's I guess where I sort of get really hyper focused. What can I control? What can I help move? What sort of dial can I impact? And I think that's really what keeps me going. That I can sort of forget about those things that I can't control, lock in on those things that I can control, And at the end of the day, and this is the most important thing, I think in order to stay motivated, stay engaged in this work, you've got to be really clear on the fact that you're making an impact,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's on an individual student, whether that's on a particular program, whether that's on the institution overall. And I think that one of the things that I've always really tried to think about is, what is it that I'm impacting? What is the purpose? Why are we here? And that's from where I draw inspiration on a daily basis, and try. I mean, I do my best to try to help my teammates understand that also, to the best of my ability, anyway.
And I think you're doing a great job at that. And it brings me back to just the reason why we joined, but also, yes, kind of as leaders, it's incumbent upon us to really kind of center everything that we do around that mission, right? And whether in marketing, especially, I've talked about this in a couple of other episodes, and just offline in general, talk about delayed gratification. uh, or talk about gratification in general, where you are influencing so many things at the same time, and there is no, sometimes we all trying to find work with data and try to look at that and look at impact as such, but that causation piece and that impact piece can feel even more delayed in the work that we do here. And I know you oversee Marcom as well. You have a wide portfolio. You oversee advancement, enrollment, Marcom. Am I right?
I do. Yes.
Yeah,
I no longer have oversight of advancement, but I did for 7 years.
that's right.
I've taken on some new responsibilities relative to strategy and innovation, and that broad perspective and that the broad opportunities I've had. I think that's one of the things that's kept me engaged, and that's one of the things that I try to think about when I'm developing talent around me. How do I give a sort of new responsibilities so people are learning a little bit more about the organization, about the operation, and about themselves? Because that certainly has been one of the great benefits that I've had to sort of expand beyond just being an admissions a person to participate in a number of other aspects of the college. And when you have that broad view of the overall enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
I think it really helps you understand where impact is possible and how you can contribute most to having impact.
So, if I was a new professional entering the industry, or if you come across a new professional and you had somebody tell you, "Hey, have you considered this industry and this type of role?" What would you tell them, and what advice would you give them, especially during these times? Because let's assume they are in another industry, a little with maybe fewer bumps, if you will, and a little bit more predictable, if you will. Um, what what would you share with them about working in higher ed, and what would compel them to do so?
Wow, that's a really good question. And something that I do think about. In fact, I'm in the process right now of trying to recruit a more senior person to my team. And two of the three candidates who are finalists don't have experience in higher ed. So they've got lots of curiosities about
Mm-hmm.
what's it like to work in this environment. I think probably the first thing that I think about, whether it's an entry level employee or a more experienced employee, is the transferable skills that we develop in higher education, which is dependent upon both high tech and high touch. You've got to have lots of face to face communication with people in higher education, but you also have to master technology. And those transferable skills, I think, equip people who get their start in higher ed or spend some time in higher ed to go to virtually any industry, just because of the skill development that we do in higher ed. I think that the second thing that I would talk about is, and I genuinely believe this, is being surrounded by stories of students who are experiencing transformation keeps you engaged, keeps you young, keeps you excited about the purpose of the place that you represent. And whether that's doing an interview for a story that you're going to be doing on a current student, or it's reading the college magazine, or it's viewing the website, or it's listening to the student speaker at commencement, that just sort of infusion of youth and transformation on a daily basis is incredibly rewarding. And I think that somebody who's contemplating a shift or a change to higher ed will find that incredibly rewarding. And then the final thing that I would say to somebody sort of contemplating a move from another industry to higher ed is just the purpose of higher ed in the U.S., how important it is to our economic viability, how important it is to concepts that are fundamentally so important to the United States: freedom of expression, freedom of speech, free inquiry, all of those things. And I think being a part of advancing that and moving that forward and keeping that fresh and keeping that relevant is as inspiring a work as I think anybody could ever want to be a part of. And that's what we get to do when given the opportunity, is reinvent what's happening in higher ed on a daily basis. So I think those three things, these transferable skills that are developed, the chance to continually feel young because you're surrounded by these incredible stories and incredible students, and then this larger purpose of advancing some of the fundamental aspects of higher education. Those are the things that I think could inspire people to either stay in this business or come over here to higher education and make their impact.
If there was some nominations for spokespeople for higher ed, I would totally nominate you, Kent. I want to bring it
Well,
back.
thank you.
Of course. I want to bring it back to our last question, but this idea of fighting the good fight, right? Is this fight going to end? And what do you envision then the future of higher education?
I don't think that the fight will end. I don't think that we live in a time where there's going to be fundamental change within the broader public about the value of higher education. I'm on the advisory board for EAB Enrollment 360, and they talk about how there's so much anecdotal refutation of all of the facts and all of the data and all of the compelling evidence about how powerful and important higher education is.
Right.
But there's so much anecdotal refutation that I don't think that this ever gets easier for us, which I think invites incredible creativity on the part of the people who are committed to this work. And I think that's what's going to keep me engaged and involved, notwithstanding the fact that it's not going to get easier. So I'll get up every day for as long as I'm invited to continue to do so, fighting the good fight for higher education and for the institution that I represent, and do so because I know that the outcomes are powerful. The outcomes are important to our country and our world. And most importantly, the outcomes benefit individuals in immeasurable ways, not only economically, but health outcomes, and certainly just the ability to see things in a panoramic way. And I think that's really important. And I consider this to be incredibly noble work, and want to continue doing it for as long as I can.
And I hope you do, because that is certainly something what the industry needs. So thank you so much, Kent Barnes. You have been very inspirational. I know our listeners will find this to be very inspirational and appreciate your candor. And if people want to find you and learn more about your work or connect with you about this topic or anything else, where can they find you?
You can find me at LinkedIn, strange spelling, Barnds, or you can find me at Augustana College, where I've been for the I'm starting my 20th year here. So
Wow.
welcome connecting with people at any point, and hearing more about their story and their why in higher education as well.
And I highly recommend people do that and connect with Kent. He is very prolific on LinkedIn, and I enjoy reading a lot of what he has to share. So thank you so much for spending time with us today, and much appreciated.
Well, thank you, Ken.
This Pulse Check mini-series has been brought to you by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.